enterprises. That is not my policy suggestion. But what I do believe, and because my field is innovation technology, I'm an evolutionary economist, if you want to know. So I'm not at all specialized in financial engineering. But I do have discussions with friends even, who work for Goldman Sachs, and who argue with me, because I tend to disagree with them, that they, after a hard day of work and a lot of stress, they have earned 1 million. Okay, I'm exaggerating here a bit the figures, but in the end that boils down, that's what the discussion is boiling down to. We just had this discussion like, we are producing MBA people, they prefer to go to work in the city, they prefer to work in the financial districts, and they seem to make a lot of money. Now, what is the point I want to make is that there is going something wrong there. I think we all are seeing that, but we are not able to define it correctly or to translate it into regulation. Now, why do I believe that this is important? Because as long as you have an economy in which you have this kind of opportunity costs, because it becomes an opportunity cost story, namely that a bank like Triodos, which we will discuss tomorrow, or other banks who confine themselves to an inclusive type of practice, are on the short term being economically outperformed by companies who engage in economical activities with a different set of rules, it will be extremely difficult to arrive at growth and sustainability of this phenomenon. I don't get very clear answers from them. My feeling is, even at this moment, is that actually nobody really knows what should these type of regulations be. Nevertheless, I would say that we should look in that direction for policy initiatives.
I've studied also a little bit economics, but I'm not in the economic department, so I will not say we don't need money. I think we need smart money for social entrepreneurs. Indeed, there is increasing more demand from consumers for products and services of social entrepreneurs. It's still niche, and there are a lot of areas where the market has still to be created in Europe, and that makes that, one, if you want to start up a social enterprise in these not developed markets, that it's really difficult to get money, because an investor asks what is the market, and there is no way to really quantify what this market will be. Secondly, it's really difficult to develop a business model that you are certain that going to work, because there are a few examples, benchmarks, role models that you can use. Through that, there is a lack of competence available in the region, and I'm talking foremost now on Belgium, to really develop credible social enterprises. If you have not many examples, if you have not a lot of expertise in the region, then it's really difficult. And through that, I think we need smart money strategies to really enable entrepreneurs, social entrepreneurs, to develop credible business plans. And secondly, we need also to think about institutions to make the market. We have to invest in social enterprises, given that we not really know what the market will be, but by creating these institutions, that we will create demand, and through that we will create the market. And that's, I think, also a role that the government could take.
Yeah, this is a really good question. For the last few months, we in a commission with many stakeholders have been thinking about exactly this question, because we are preparing the social business initiative. And the social business initiative will be announced in about 3-4 weeks, hopefully, if everything goes right and if the interpretation people are there, and that's always the other issues for us. But this is about creating better framework conditions for social enterprises, for social economy in Europe. And we are looking at around 10-12 areas. So this is Europe, not only one action, but 12, but the main ones are about what you say, about demand. And we would be looking at how we can mobilize the leverage of public procurement to incentivize so that more public procurement is used to stimulate social enterprises. We are looking at how we can work with the current state aid framework, because we've now seen that if there are public-private partnerships with social enterprises and public sector organizations, they're often state aid issues. We are looking at finance, at microfinance, as well as at loans. And then finally, this question about spaces for social innovators, incubators, and increasing their visibility. Basically, telling people about the work of social enterprises in Europe. That is a bit. So it's not a single measure, but on the 18th of November we have a conference here to announce this and to announce this plan, and we need you to make this happen.
Thanks. Basically, I'm with Bart. I think all Economics 101 says that there should be no intervention unless you can identify the market failure, and I've heard nothing clearly that identifies a market failure today, so I don't really see a systematic need for intervention. Actually, the sorts of things that have just been talked about are not really interventions in quite that sense and are sensible. I just make a few other... No, I mean, I think what I'm just saying doesn't... You're not talking about a policy which is correcting a market failure in that. I think I make three very quick comments. I mean, actually what we've heard today, and actually what the project suggested, is that social firms have the potential to be relatively more efficient, and therefore they should survive alone, and therefore there shouldn't be the need for intervention. Of course, there is a test, there is a market test on that, but I mean that's... but you know, it's not that I hear no market failure. I hear reasons why you would expect this sector to grow, in fact, one. Secondly, I think the evidence we've got so far, we need a lot more information, right? The SELUSI project has given us evidence, if you think of a firm's life cycle, it's given us evidence about innovation and entry. We don't really know anything much about survival of the firm. We don't know whether firms exit too soon, whether they exit too late. One might argue that they would exit too late because they stay on too long, tying up resources that shouldn't be tied up there, because their social objective dominates their commercial objective. And we haven't even talked about any of that yet, but it's a big policy question. And then lastly, and I'm saved from making an idiot of myself by Joanna here, what I thought of on the train or before was that the key thing that's needed, I think, is a clear legal definition of a social enterprise, which is the basis for data collection on the one side, and potentially in the future for policy on the other. And I hear the EU is moving towards that, and I think it's very, very important. I mean, I think it's very important institutionally to define the sort of organisation we're talking about, so we can measure it in a more systematic way.
Very good. Are there comments or questions? Yes, there's a question.
Hi, Simon from the Hub. I think we're missing one piece that social entrepreneurs really need, and that's access to funding, not from the EU, not from governments, but actually to be allowed to crowdfund in a legal way for for-profit entities, which is now not possible. So there are plenty of crowdfunding platforms out there, the likes of Kickstarter and Indiegogo and so on, but they actually only allow funding for non-profits. Because it's in fact illegal to solicit funding for shares from members of the public. So what I would like to see the Commission do or the governments of Europe, is actually to legislate perhaps a lower limit of saying, okay, it's allowed for the public to invest or for social entrepreneurs to solicit funding of up to, say, 5,000 euros or something like that from the public directly through crowdfunding platforms. That would significantly increase their ability to get off the ground, because where do they get their funding from? From their auntie, from the guy down the road, from their potential customers. And that would really make a huge difference, I think.
I think that's an excellent suggestion, and when we were launching the Social Innovation Europe initiative in March, we also heard some questions about crowdfunding. So I went to my colleagues in DG Markt, and they said to me, "What is crowdfunding?" So in the whole kind of financial regulation, this is not on the radar whatsoever. So I think it's time that we should start writing a few letters. And now I'm talking as a civilian who wants to invest in this, and not as a commission. But it's time that we start writing a letter to Mr. Barnier and start to get this work going. Because up till now, no one feels responsible for this. Sorry to be so direct.
No, I agree there should be more experimentation, and actually I had a second policy recommendation was on that there should be special economic tolerance zone on societal challenges, and to because you see that lot of social enterprises are struggling with legal stuff where there should be none. It makes, but I didn't put it on the first on my priority list, because I think if you start with crowdfunding, you need still good business plans, and I think we have to prioritize that if you would go in the prioritization.
Any other comments?
My name is Chris Lebier. I basically had the experience to bring a mid-sized company worldwide for the last 7 years, which you probably would call traditional. But by just flipping through this booklet, this great booklet, for your research report, I was flipping through barriers to innovation. And you basically says the booklet, if I interpret this right, cost-related innovation barriers are more or less the same for this kind of social enterprise and the non-social enterprise, but the big difference is that the market-related barriers for social enterprises are so low, or much lower, if the interpretation is correct. Now, if that would be true, I wonder what the panel would say in terms of scalability of potential of social enterprise.
I didn't have a look at the leaflet book, so it's but okay. There are two things there. The barriers to innovation, well, whether or not, as I didn't see the figures, it's a bit difficult for me to react on what exactly is being depicted there. But what I would say, if I look at social enterprise and the ones I've seen through SELUSI, is two things. One is that some of them, while being innovative, are also inclined to stay small. And maybe that might be also partly the explanation for that phenomenon that you see there in the book, is that they limit themselves to being small. And if you're small, then you might have much less problems in exploiting markets. I think the challenge of going globally with a new service are completely different than organizing it locally. So I would say that might be an explanation for that phenomena. But I'm also looking a little bit as people who are close to the survey and have been analyzing these data. Maybe they want to comment. Or you, Marieke? No.
So you're right to point out that there is a difference in terms of the barriers that social entrepreneurs experience compared to mainstream entrepreneurs. But Ute, go ahead and...
Yeah, overall it was quite striking that all barriers were perceived to be lower by social enterprises. And to be honest, it does sound like there is something to do with smallness, but maybe there's